Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now, I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now, I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Welcome to the show, guys. Today is August 7th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole, and I'm your host, Popeye, from FederalJack.com. Today, I am joined by a very special guest who I'm honored to have on my show. He is an author. He's not only an author, he's also a teacher, but he's the author of a book that is super explosive. I mean, if you haven't read this book yet, you need to buy it. And you need to read it. This dovetails with my interview with Judith Vary Baker, the girlfriend of Lee Harvey Oswald. You guys heard me talk about it many times. You heard the interview air 2 weeks ago. Almost everybody has contacted me about it that heard it and given me rave reviews and just amazed at the information that Judith has come forward with. And a lot of these people didn't know. And mentioned in it during the interview, she mentioned Dr. Mary Sherman. Now, Dr. Mary's story is kind of swept under the rug into the rubbish bin of history, if not for my guest, Ed Haslam. He made this amazing book. He's written this amazing book, Dr. Mary's Monkey, and today I have him on the show to talk all about it, tell you guys a little bit about himself, and, you know, his search for the truth, what he knows about Judith and everything else. So without further ado, Ed, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Popeye. It's great to be here. Where do you want to start?
Well, first off, I want tell the listeners where they can get your book and where they can. That way, I have that out of the way, and then we can get into the details. Where can they get your book? And you said you had some more videos and stuff. Where can they see that?
Well, it depends on what kind of book you want. You can, of course, go into a bookstore. It's in the catalog. You can special order it from any bookstore in America. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes & Noble. You can get it in Kindle on Amazon or in Nook book on Barnes & Noble. If you want a signed copy, I personally sign and ship copies from my website, which is drmarysmonkey.com, but you spell out the word doctor, D-O-C-T-O-R. And when you're there, you'll discover there's a lot of videos, maybe about 10, 12 hours worth of videos, giving background information and interviews with people in allied subjects and even interviews with me and news on things. I found a document that I'm very interested in. I'm trying to get the FBI to give me one word. And I will post what's going on with that research and stuff on my website. Again, that's drmarysmonkey.com, and spell out Dr. D-O-C-T-O-R.
All right. Now that we got that out of the way, Ed, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you came on, how you stumbled upon this journey of truth into Dr. Mary Sherman and Judith and everything else in the JFK assassination.
Well, I was raised in New Orleans in the 1950s and 1960s, and I really didn't consider myself a JFK researcher or anything else. I had this situation where my father was a professor at Tulane Medical School, and he was an orthopedic surgeon and therefore taught orthopedic surgery in the medical school. And one of his colleagues, another orthopedic surgeon who taught at the medical school, was named Dr. Mary Sherman. And in 1964, she was murdered. And that was, of course, a big shock to my father, because whenever you have a close personal friend who gets murdered, it's kind of a traumatic situation. And I heard about all this back in New Orleans in the 1960s. Now, also going on in New Orleans in the 1960s was all the stuff that Jim Garrison investigated, and, in fact, Jim Garrison's investigation itself. And in 1967, Jim Garrison did an interview in Playboy magazine where they asked him some questions about Jack Ruby's cancer. And as part of his answer, published in October 1967, was he said that his investigators had figured out that his primary suspect, who was David Ferry, was actually doing some secret cancer research with this Dr. Mary Sherman, who had been murdered. And this little clip of information, this clue, if you will, was pretty much ignored by all the JFK researchers because nobody knew who Mary Sherman was. So the advantage I had in this was I knew who Mary Sherman was because I knew about her through my family. And I knew that my father, who had graduated from Harvard Medical School, had like the utmost professional respect for Mary Sherman, and because she was way higher up on the ladder than he was in the structure of orthopedic surgery in America. In fact, she was the chairman of the pathology committee of the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons. Now, and this is a field that doesn't have a lot of women in it, okay? And this is because that she was a world-class expert in two areas. One area was cancer, and the other area was radiation. And on the radiation point, she had come out of the University of Chicago. That's where Enrico Fermi did the first sustained nuclear reaction, and where Harold Urey taught. Harold Urey ran the war sciences thing at Columbia during World War II, which became the Manhattan Project. Okay, the biggest brains in America on the radiation subject are at the University of Chicago, while Mary Sherman is there figuring out how to use radiation in medicine. And then she comes down to New Orleans. So this is, an awfully heavy hitter to come down to Mardi Gras City, And my father came down at approximately the same time after he had gotten out the Navy. And so these two orthopedic surgeons from out of town joining the Tulane Medical School faculty at the same time became friends. Now, Mary Sherman was brought to New Orleans by Dr. Alton Ochsner, who had been president of the American Cancer Society. And my father had no affiliation with Ochsner at all.
Let us never tolerate outrageous.
You know what? Hang out right there, Ed. I'm gonna have to cut you off because we're coming up on a break. I'm gonna have you pick up right there when we get back. Guys, stay tuned. You don't want to miss the rest of this 2-hour interview with Ed Haslam. We'll be right back.